Ba ba. Oh, I'm missing something. 1 second. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to be running through some more console testing. I think I'm on my second round on all of these consoles. So it's going to be more the same. Just doing another testing suite. Seeing if I catch anything that I didn't catch in the first run. Hope to get a few done. I need to take them all out. The little cabinet I use is kind of cramped. I usually try to have like a good flow between assembly and testing and then selling, but I kind of got onto an assembly kick for a while, so I have a lot more assembled than I do actually prepared to sell. So we'll start off with this Burgundy console. So let's see, I'm going to bring up my notes on it again. Okay. Assembled. It's one of 2 Burgundy consoles that I have ready. 409. This one. No known issues. Might need new charge port. Seems fine. I don't remember reading. I must have missed that when I was doing the first round of testing. Because I did not detect anything with the first round. Mild yellowing. Oh yeah, this was the one with the camera. So this one, I did replace the little lens, and that seemed to help. It at least brought it back to the baseline that I'm okay with. I did the screen and sleep test, and there is some mild yellowing. I kind of want to check that really quick. Because there's sort of a degree of yellowing that I'm comfortable selling. Yeah, on the top screen, it's a little bit on the corners. This is not bad, though. Yellowing can get very, very bad. And I don't know if it will actually come through. Not really. Like, I can't capture it on a camera setup. That's how mild it is. When it gets really bad, it is gross. Still not too certain about how that phenomena works, but I think in this case, the screens look good. I'm just going to have to make note of the mild yellowing, but it's something I'll be able to spot. So, I'll grab my my assessment form, and I'll be looking at this column of tests down here. I don't have to do the sleep and image retention, so that will be good, and kind of similar to the first test, I'm going to kind of rifle through these pretty quickly, see if I can get as many consoles as I can done, just to move on so that I can get these onto the final phase. The final phase testing, where I actually do, not to say well, in the final phase testing, I'll actually take the time to explain everything I'm doing, but I don't think that necessarily impacts the legitimacy of I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. I'm just going to go through the tests and the speed that I think is necessary without having to explain the same thing 3 times for each console. So the first one is motherboard, power board. Just does the console turn on, and does it open up a settings menu? I wouldn't have cleared it through the first test if it didn't make it to a application, so I'm just going to skip that and just go to the tactile button test. It's basic for the motherboard and power board. It does the console turn on, does it make it to the main menu, does it open up an application, which R4 card would be considered such application. So for tactile button, I use an R4 card, which has a piece of homebrew software that turns sort of this bottom screen into like a LED grid array with buttons corresponding with lights. This is kind of my easiest, best method to testing these buttons without trying to rely on like a Pokemon game or some other game that I can use for testing. Because there are some inputs that would be extremely hard to catch, especially on a game that's not really giving me good feedback. So the face buttons are usually always fine. I don't really worry about them too much. The shoulder buttons tend to have the problems. And when I say inputs that are really hard to detect, it would be sort of how these shoulder buttons respond in their actuation point. So when the button clicks, I expect that light to be on the entire time and not go out at all. So that's pretty much from, like, if you did a very slow input from when the button actually clicks all the way until the button's bottomed out, and then as you're sort of backing off the button until it unclicks, for lack of a better term. And that input, I could see that being extremely hard to catch. Like, does that actually work? Is it like a lag inside the video game that I can't... Like, even just me pressing the L button this quickly, I wouldn't be able to... I wouldn't know of any game that would be responsive to that quickly. Like, Pokemon game, I'm pretty sure you can use them to swap boxes, but box swapping would never occur this quickly. Or maybe not so much my left hand, because my left hand's a little slower than my right hand, but I would almost have to find like a Mario Party game and where you mash the shoulder buttons. Okay, I'm detecting no problem with the shoulder buttons. All the face buttons seem to be fine as well. So next is touchscreen. Use another R4 program to just turn the bottom screen into a sketchpad. I'll do a perimeter. Now what's interesting is there is some like wiggly inputs around the edges. I don't know why this is like... But for the most part, it does draw a perimeter. And that's really what I'm looking for. There's no dead corners. And then I'll just do swirls, looking for sort of like any improper inputs, anything weird. The marks on the touchscreen are following my stylus, as I would expect. There's no like erratic inputs, nothing seems wrong. So all of that's good on that front. Next, the speaker, microphone, headphone jack. I'll be using an SD card to test the SD card slot because, well as testing the sound systems, because the SD card slot has a piece of song loaded up on it. Or a piece of music, I should say. La 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 la. Should probably turn up my sound. La 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 la. Should probably turn up. This one also has sort of a high pitch to it. Sort of a ringing. It's definitely not as bad as that one console. Or that one brown console. Or the one bronze console, I think, is probably next. I think I might just replace the... You know what? I'm going to take a pause here. I'm going to compare it. I think it is this one. Yeah, it is. I'm just going to see if it's any remarkably worse, because I was going to compare it with other consoles. La 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 la! La 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 la! No, it's about the same. grab another one. Going off on a bit aside. It's one of those, is this something I should worry about? I don't think it is. I think I was maybe just a little more sensitive to that sort of hissing than I am usually. I just kind of spotted it as odd. Like, this one's pretty clear. I think what I need to determine is if that hissing creates a false input. That's really what it comes down to. If it's just bad mic quality, I mean, this is a DSi. But if it's bad mic quality sort of combined with a false input, that's another thing. I might actually be able to try that, or to test this. So this is definitely kind of going off the rails here as far as the second round of testing goes, but it's more, do I need to focus on getting a good mic, or does it not really matter? Hopefully this console can load my ace card. I actually don't know. There it goes, okay. It just takes a fat second to load. So what I need to do is go on the mic tester. I think that's just going to be sort of my best method of determining whether or not it's an input. Because I'm going to make the bold assumption that, okay, they're both on a baseline level. I'm going to make the bold assumption that most video games that uses the mic sort of have a threshold. Just so any droning in the background doesn't trigger them. Like if you have a fan on or a loud AC unit, it's not going to detect it within sort of these lower ranges. It's only when it like peaks up here that it will respond with an input. Okay, that makes me feel a lot better. That's really the only testing method I can sort of determine for this for that issue. And it is not creating a false input. That's all that really matters to me. Alright, so now I can actually get back to the sound testing. For the sake of just trying to be as transparent as I can, I'll just note it. That there's sort of like that there's a mic buzz, I guess. But the microphone works. It's not perfect, so you have to really kind of... It would really be up to whoever is going to be looking at these consoles to purchase them, if that's a big deal. It doesn't create a false input to the best of my knowledge. I did not want to do that. And that hasn't been anything I've been specifically looking out for. So maybe that's something I should be. Okay, so it sees my SD card. I do volume up and down. The UI element is responding. Both shoulder buttons, or both volume buttons work. So what I'm going to do is listen to the song, listen to both speakers and both headphone earbuds to see if I can hear the song out of both channels. Yep. The only really thing I can't test about the sound system is the microphone port. That's the little the rectangular port right there next to the 3.5mm jack. I don't have a microphone. I don't know how many people even have a microphone anymore. It's a proprietary connector, so to the best of my knowledge at least. I used to have one, but that is long since gone. Oh yeah, that looks a lot better ever since I changed that lens. Okay. I thought I remember there still kind of being like a glint to it, but no, this looks perfectly fine. As far as like DSi cameras are concerned, they're not studio quality or anything crazy. And yeah, I was just testing the camera. But I don't have an ability to check the microphone. I'm just going to have to go off based on visuals. The 2 contact pins are in there. They aren't depressed, which would kill the microphone input, if I remember correctly, if those pins are like pressed down. And they do that because I don't know if like Pocket Link gets shoved in there or people jamming stuff in there to bend those pins, but since the microphone's giving me an input, it's telling me that port is fine, so I have really no reason to believe the microphone won't work if you have one of those headsets. Next is charge port. So I'll plug in my little USB tester here, plug in the charger. Now I didn't in my notes mention this might need a new charger. I don't really know. Okay, so plugged in, system is responding, orange charge light. Sort of rotating the charger around in the charge port, it stays on the whole time now. It doesn't really hold on to the charger that hard. Like it does kind of pop out pretty easily. When I put in these new charge ports, which I have right here, they hold on to the charger like to the point to where it's like when you're putting it in for the first time, you're like, holy moly. This isn't a problem. This is just sort of the charge port is a little worn down. It's not going to fall out like... I'm not tugging on it really hard, but I'm having to exert force on it to... Like, it's not just going to fall out if I shake it. So that's within good enough parameters that I'm fine with it. I don't think it's going to get any worse unless it gets physically damaged. I am going to put this in my notes. Here, just going to update my digital notes. Might need new charge port. Functions within reason, I'll say. Might need a new charge port, but functions within reason. It fully works based on the test that I have for it, and though it is looser than a new charge port, it still plugs in. The charger isn't falling out on its own. It's making contact the entire time, and even when I try to break contact with it by jiggling it around, it's still there. So I'm confident enough with that. So now we're on to the game card slot. Okay, so for that, I have this stack of 20 game cards off to the side here. I'm going to kind of explain it as I'm doing it. Well, as I sort of rapidly go through a few of them, so I'll kind of do all the steps while sort of trying to explain every step. So what I'll do is I'll put the game card in normally. Just click it in, let go, see if it respawns, or see if the game comes up on the menu. In this case, it does. I'll explain that in a minute. Then what I'll do is I'll put my fingers on the game card, and there's just a tiny bit of left and right play in the game card slot. So then I'll sort of shift the game card from side to side, putting a little bit of pressure on it, and then just sort of increasing my pressure. So I'm pushing down on the game card as I'm sort of shifting it from side to side, all the way up until the game card actually hits that ejection mechanism, which it'll click. And then I'll even go a little beyond that till the card actually bottoms out in the game card slot. Just seeing if I can get the game to disconnect at all. And then, as you're probably seeing, I will then let go of the game card after, well, get it locked back in the game card slot and then slap it against my open palm to see if I can get the game card to disappear. which so far, so very good. Nothing's been disconnecting randomly. Every time it's disconnecting, it's because I'm ejecting it. I do that little side-to-side jiggle test like 2 or 3 times. Oh, why is there an Amber Alert happening? What do you want? Yes, they've been found safely. That's very good, but you've completely disrupted my entire setup. Wish my phone wouldn't lock out like that. Alright, anyway. I'll do this one again, because I don't remember where I left off with it. So what I'm mainly looking for, kind of like as I'm somewhat suggesting, I'm trying to make it so these game cards vanish from the menu. I need them to just disconnect just for a fraction of a second. Well, I don't need them to, but my intention is to get them to disconnect. And because in best case scenario, or at least sort of the baseline I want these consoles to be at, is that they never disconnect randomly like this. Because, oops, press the shoulder button. Because when the game card disconnects, if you're playing it, the console will either just shut off or freeze. And this is in the era of manual saves. And that can be very frustrating if, say, you put your console down on a table when you're playing it and the game card disconnects. Typically, at least in all of the cases I've seen, well, no, I'm not even going to say that, but in the normal cases that I've seen, it's almost always because the game card slot needs a little bit of cleaning. I don't know if those pins are like, if the game card slot pins are like oxidizing a little, and just cleaning them off brings them back or restores them to functionality, I suppose. I guess I shouldn't really say that. But sometimes all they need is a cleaning, and then they work just fine. In much rarer cases, sometimes you need to bend the game card pins up, but I haven't had to do that many times. Almost not even enough to worry about. But really, sort of the baseline of whether or not a cleaning will be sufficient is if your game cards do read just fine when you click them in, but maybe as you sort of move them around in the game card slot, they disconnect, or when you slap it against an open palm, it disconnects. So I'm trying my damnedest to get these things to disconnect, just to see, are the game cards good? And even just the act of me sliding 20 game cards across those pins is going to be plenty good to clean it. Oh. So Bejeweled 3 is having an issue. Hang on. I won't really know if it's an issue unless I can repeat it, which I can. Okay, it's pressing down on the right side of this game card will cause it to disappear. Well, it's when I press down and then let go past a certain point, I think. Oh. Yeah, right there. Okay. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. I did not eject the card. That was me just sort of pushing down on it. Try and see if I can get it to go away again. Because when I first put in the game card, it didn't show up the first time, which I've kind of noticed can happen sometimes. I think that's just software glitch. Just me maybe popping game card in too quickly, or... And I feel like I had the same problem with Bejeweled 3 on the last game console I did this with. No, it was on Zuzu, not Bejeweled. Okay, I'm gonna put this one off to the side. And at the end of the day, I really just have to sort of take it as an average. This one disconnecting on bottom out? No, I can't really. It did disappear that first go down, but I can't repeat it. But like I was saying, I need to sort of take it as an average. As if one card of 20 has a little bit of a problem, the average is saying that it is otherwise good. And that could just be a weird oddity with that game card. But what I've noticed with Harry Potter and with Zuzu, when I do the first sort of round of like pressure testing, they cut out once, but then I can't repeat it. So I'm not really sure what to make of that. Okay, let me look at Bejeweled 3 again. I might do Bejeweled, Zuzu, and Harry Potter. Those were the three that I noticed a weird input, or a weird cutout. But with Harry Potter and Zuzu, I couldn't repeat it. With Bejeweled, I could. There should be nothing inherently wrong with the game card pins, or the contacts on them. See, when I slotted it in the first time, right now it's in, it doesn't show up. I usually take that to just mean a software error. It's not showing up again. I have to... Ooh, this is interesting behavior. So this is pretty much exactly what I'm looking for. This game's really having a hard time for some reason. I'm going to sort of jiggle it down. Yeah, it's not responding when I first click it in. Alright. It disconnected past the ejection point. I'm trying to see if I can get it to cut out like it was before. Which now it's not disconnecting when it used to. It does disconnect when I bottom it out. Can I get it to stay disconnected, or does it just sort of blip out? And I don't really worry too much if I can get the thing to disconnect when it's bottomed out, because that's beyond the... Begone, bot! I'm not really too worried if they disconnect beyond the ejection point, because by that time, they're sort of beyond the point of ejection and the game card's coming out. This game card's acting really weird, though. I think it might be just a problem with the game card itself. Maybe those pins. The pins shouldn't need cleaning. Just the way I do these game card tests, these game card pins should be in very good shape. So let me see if I can repeat this issue. Or if I can get a cutout on Zuzu or on Harry Potter. Which so far I can't. So that really leads me to believe it is a... It's just an issue with that game card. Because that would be really strange for this game card slot to have an issue, and for that not to be represented on the 19 other game cards that I tried. That just seems... that doesn't make much sense to me. So I'll do a cleaning on the game card slot. And just to see if that fixes it. But kind of like what I was speaking about, how I'm kind of taking an average. With an average of 1 failure out of 19, I think is pretty good. Or 1 failure out of 20. It is far more likely that it is an issue with the game card and not the console. Most of these game cards are in pretty good shape, but some better than others, hopefully sort of representing an average of game cards. So what I do for cleaning, I'll do it with Bejeweled to see if I can get it back to functional, or whatever's wrong with it, I don't really know. I have some 91% rubbing alcohol. I'll just liberally dribble it all over the pins. Shake off a little bit of the excess, and then just sort of take it in and out of the console. Because, and I think I used to be a lot more strict when it came to this, because I didn't have as many test cards. But since, again, average dictates that this is overwhelmingly good. What is a 1 in 20? Let me do rough math, because I can't do that in my brain. Well, 1 in 20. I don't want to try and figure that out. So I'm just rubbing it against the game card pins just several times. 91% alcohol dries pretty quickly. So I just want to take advantage of that. It would probably be best to do this with 99, but 91 is what I have available right now, and it gives me a little more time. 99 dries incredibly quickly. So, okay. So I am comfortable passing it for the second test. Everything else otherwise was perfect. So now we're on to the final test of this console, which I will do another day, just to let that game card slot dry out completely. So, because I've noticed that sometimes after I do a cleaning on a game card slot or on a shoulder button, they tend to give false positives until they like thoroughly dry out, and then if there is a grander issue, it'll either return, or it won't be perfect, but it will be better, but still have issues. So I don't want to report a false positive only to have it have problems reading game cards again. This I'm not so worried about. It was just one, but I will write it down. Trouble with Bejeweled. And I'll know what that means because I'm being specific. Troubled with Bejeweled 3. Okay, so let me look and see if I missed anything. The only thing I can't test right now is the Wi-Fi. I have to connect it to an access point on my phone, which I'm currently using as my camera, so I save that for the final test, but I've never had a console fail a Wi-Fi test, so I'm not going to worry about it. So that will be it for this console, and I'll happily put it in my final testing area.